What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Generational Sports. I'm your host, Anthony, along with my co-host, Josh. How are we doing, everybody? As you can tell by the title of this episode, very, very special episode. We're going to get through some quick ad reads real quick, and then we will hop right into the interview with Trey. Josh, how you doing, bro?
Feeling good, man. Super excited for this show, so ready to get into it.
Yes, sir. All right. So if you're into the betting world, make sure you go over to MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Use code USM100. It doubles your first deposit up to $1,000. So make sure you check that out if you like betting. Second of all, RX Hemp, RxHemp-USN, CBD creams. If you're sore from shoveling snow like I am in New York, or you're actually trying to get in shape and go to the gym, can't relate. Head over to RX Hemp, RxHemp-USN saves you 10% on your entire order. We also have a shop. Ooh, I can't speak. As you can tell right here, Generational Sports, we got our merch. So Teespring/stores/Unwrapped. You can go check out the store. Unwrapped has its gear. Each individual show has its gear as well. So make sure you check that out. And then last but certainly not least, Patreon. We're on Patreon now. $1, you're supporting the team. $5, you get entered into an Amazon gift card giveaway. You get 10% off the store I was just talking about. And you get access to our Discord chat. You're like an honorary member of the Unwrapped family. $10, you get everything I just said, plus the 10% goes to $20, and you get entered into a signed jersey giveaway or a piece of memorabilia each month. This month is a David Montgomery jersey, so you got a great opportunity to win some gear. But that's that. Let's get into what everybody is truly waiting for. Former host of the NFL Draft, NFL Live, has covered basically everything. Golf aficionado, as you can see on his Twitter account, certainly enjoys playing it. I'll say that. Trey Wingo, how are we doing, my friend?
Oh, wow. What an intro. I'm doing great. Thanks to both of you guys. Good to be here. So is that a Yankees logo, Anthony?
It is. Yes, it is.
Right. Good for you. And Josh, what are those jerseys behind you?
Brett Favre and Cam Newton. It's a Favre Jets jersey, too.
I was about to say a Favre Jets jersey is a stroke of genius. Nicely done. That 1 year he was really good until he wasn't, and that's the best way to describe it.
Coming in and out of retirement, he definitely knew how to make some plays, though. I'll say that. But we'll jump right into this. We usually start off with a who am I, but we only got Trey for a certain amount of time, so we're gonna skip past that. We'll get right into the interview stuff that you guys want to know about. So I kind of just want to start it off of, what really got you into, what you're doing right now with the broadcasting and everything like that.
I always loved sports and I was always terrible at it. Like that's the simplest answer, right? Like I can remember as a kid, and for whatever reason, I always had an affinity for football and specifically pro football. Growing up in the East Coast, there weren't a lot of great college football teams, as you guys probably know. So I was sort of a USC fan back in the day. But I always loved football. There's something about it that I gravitated towards. And I just love for me, I love the uniquely team approach to football. Like baseball, at the end of the day, my Yankees, I love you, Anthony, for having that behind you. Don Mattingly, one of my 5 favorite sports heroes of all time. Baseball is a pitcher-batter exchange, and then everybody else may get into the mix. Basketball, you have 1 or 2 players you can dominate, although the Nets are trying to get all the good players, not blaming LeBron right now. Hockey and soccer is great, but like if you have a hot goalie, that changes everything. To me, football was the ultimate and is the ultimate team sport. You have to have 11 guys on one side of the ball working together, or you don't have dick. And that's what I really appreciate about it more than anything else.
Yeah.
For me and Connie, we look up to like guys like you and Don, obviously some of the greats that we get to watch and listen to. Who were some of the people when you were getting into broadcasting that you looked up to?
Well, there were a few, right? And you guys are both based in the New York, New Jersey area. Is that what I'm understanding?
I'm in New York, Josh. You're in what?
I'm in Central Illinois.
Sure. So that's why you have a Brett Favre and Cam Newton jersey. Got it. Totally understand. Peoria, big, strong.
Well, actually, before that, I have to say, Trey's putting both of us to shame, though. With that background, beautiful.
Well, play to your strengths is what they say. So this is how this is working. I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, right outside New York City. And one of the guys that I always thought was very cool was a local sportscaster named Warner Wolf. Warner worked at almost every station in New York, CBS, ABC. And he was the first guy to use the phrase, let's go to the videotape. And he would bring in video from everywhere and show games from all over the country. And it was kind of fun. So he would have been the first guy. Then I went to college in Texas at Baylor University, and they had a guy who's still there to this day named Dale Hansen, who works for Channel 8 WFAA. And Dale was everything between a serious journalist and a complete cartoon character. Like, he covered the entire spectrum. And he still does amazing work to this day about a lot of social issues that most people in Texas probably don't agree with, but they respect his opinion and they respect his voice on it. So he would have been the second guy that I would say got me interested. And then when I got into the business, I worked in 6 years in St. Louis. And at the time, Bob Costas was a guy on NBC, and he was from St. Louis. He lived in St. Louis at the time. I got to know Bob. And in fact, at one time, his then wife told me, you're my mom's favorite broadcaster. I'm like, do you know who you're married to? Like, that should be the answer in Bob. So those three guys, and obviously Boomer, would be the four guys that I think really influenced me in wanting to get into the business.
Definitely need to get into more questions, but apparently there is breaking news right now. Dak Prescott has signed a deal with the Cowboys. So, Trey, this is perfect timing. You've been in the NFL a long, long time. You have any initial thoughts on it? I don't know the deal.
Hold on. I'm now looking at this. Is it a multi-year deal, or is it the franchise tag 1 year deal?
According to your boy Schefter, it says Cowboys and Dak Prescott have a deal. I'm not sure yet.
I need more information. First of all, let me just say this: the Cowboys reverse engineered this, right? They paid a right tackle, La'el Collins. They paid an inside linebacker, Jalen Smith, who I love, great guy. They played a running back who's been suspended a couple of times, big dollars, before they paid their quarterback. That's a disaster. That's a disaster. So I'm hopeful for Dak and Dallas as we record this. This is a long-term deal. If it's a 1 year deal under the franchise tag, then it's a mistake. But I think Dak is the most underappreciated quarterback in the NFL. Like, outside of this past year when he got hurt, when his leg bent the wrong way, he had the most important thing. He had availability. He had not missed a game from his rookie year in 2016 to that injury in 2020. Like, availability is the most important ability in the NFL. And, the week before he got hurt, I think he threw for 500 and 400 plus yards in 2 straight weeks. And at that point, the Cowboys defense couldn't stop a nosebleed, to quote our good friend Bart Scott. So they had to put up points. I thought Dak was very underappreciated and undervalued. So I'm glad that has gotten taken care of.
So I'll just say this: you're falling on the opposite side of me, Trey. I think Dak's all right. I think Dak's all right. I think he puts up the stats against the bad teams. Am I wrong?
Well, what's a bad team?
I mean,
he put up stats against Atlanta. He put up stats against Cleveland. He put up stats against almost everybody they played this year. Like, look, here's the deal. And quarterback wins and losses is not a stat for me. Like, teams win games, teams lose games. Like, suddenly when the Cowboys lost Dak, their defense played great. But when they had Dak, they couldn't do anything. Like, to me, a quarterback should be judged on 3 things. 1, how are you on third down? 2, how are you in the red zone? And 3, how are you in 2-minute drills? Those are the things to me that are most important for quarterbacks. If you can do well in those 3 areas, you've done your job. The quarterback wins and losses thing is such a quagmire. It was like 3 years ago, there was a game between the Ravens and the Steelers, week 17, that would determine who won the division. Well, Joe Flacco led the Ravens down the field and scored a touchdown with like 1:33 left to give them the lead. So by the qualifiers, he did his job. He scored, he gave them the lead with whatever to play. Well, the problem is you give the ball back over to the offense. And then Ben Roethlisberger went right down the field. And that was the immaculate extension by Antonio Brown that won them not only the game, but the division. So how can you blame Joe Flacco for that when he did his job and the defense failed the Ravens? Same thing this past year with the Raiders and the Chiefs, the second game between the two of them. Derek Carr led his team down the field and scored with like a minute 13 left to put the Raiders ahead, did his job. Well, then Patrick Mahomes, who is a freaking unicorn, by the way, if for example, like people have given me grief on Twitter about, oh, you love Patrick Mahomes and he lost the Super Bowl. If you think he's the reason they lost the Super Bowl, you should never watch a football game, okay? That guy was incredible in that game, and nothing else worked. So, and then Patrick Mahomes did that and led Travis Kelce down the field to score a touchdown, and they won that game. So wins and losses are the most overrated stat when it comes to rating a quarterback. How they play in situations is the most important thing in how you should rate a quarterback. And Dak has played very well in those situations.
That's why I refuse to give my imaginary father, Tom Brady, any grief for losing against the Giants.
Yeah. Well, look. Okay, you want to do the Tom Brady thing? Let's do the Tom Brady thing. Like, I love Tom Brady.
I'll do any Tom Brady thing.
I think he's great. But you had a Super Bowl where every game that Patrick Mahomes has started and finished outside the Cleveland game this year where he had to go out, in the playoffs, they scored at least 31 points. You have a game in the Super Bowl where they only score 9 points and they don't score a touchdown, and you give the MVP to the opposing quarterback? What are you doing? Like, what are we doing? That absolutely should have been a Devin White, Shaq Barrett split co-MVP. And people think you can't do that. Super Bowl 12, Broncos lose to the Cowboys 27-10, Harvey Martin, Randy White co-MVPs. It happens, okay? You just chose not to do it. Super Bowl 53, a 13-3 the final score. The Rams had scored like 38 points a game that season. They only scored 3, and Julian Edelman, who had a great game. I love Julian, don't get me wrong. He's the MVP? What are we doing? I feel like if you don't have a clear cut, give it to the starting quarterback. It makes no sense. No sense.
Yeah. To go back to the Mahomes thing, another quarterback who he basically puts the team on his back and does everything, and they don't help him on the other side of the ball, Russell Wilson. Obviously, There's been a lot of talk about him this offseason.
Hold on, real quick update. It's a $160 million deal, 4 years for Dak, and it's 126 record million guaranteed. So that's a good deal.
Wow.
That's a good deal for Dak. Good deal. Well, that sounds great, but at the bottom line, Patrick Mahomes is like holding my beer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
$500 million.
But here's the funny thing about that deal, real quickly. Like, people are raving, oh my God, it could be up to worth half a billion. You understand that, like, that's a 3-year deal max, and they're going to renegotiate it in 3 years. He's going to make more than $750 million guaranteed.
Oh yeah.
So while this is cool, understand what contracts are and understand what they aren't.
Yeah, they usually just set up people who haven't been paid yet to get paid even more than they did. So
correct.
It's good for other future quarterbacks, but back to Russell Wilson, do you think he sticks with the Seahawks this year? Do you think if they don't trade him, does he sit out games? What do you think happens there in Seattle?
Well, let me say a couple of things about that as I'm trying to bang out a tweet at the same time here.
Trey's a busy man. He's a legend. He has to do these things.
2 things. First of all, like, Russell Wilson is as top end as you can get in football, right? Like, if you're going to break down the quarterbacks by tiers, whatever the highest level is, Russell lives in that space. Let's just be honest about that. That's who he is.
Thank you.
That's what he does. Over the last 5 years, only one quarterback has thrown 140 touchdown passes. It's Russell Wilson. He's that guy. But if we're honest about it, there's something about him that rubs people the wrong way. Like, the before he left, Richard Sherman and Russell Wilson had beef. There's no question about it. I can tell you with great certainty that before the 2019 draft, there was a quarterback in that draft that the Seahawks loved, and they were thinking about drafting. Russell heard about that and then said, I want a new contract by April, whatever. It was those arbitrary, non important binding deadline of all time, but it was before the draft. And the Seahawks caved because they knew that, oh, we can't do this now that he's put this out there. So whatever Russell is as a player, and he's one of the best there is clearly something about him that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I don't know what that is. I'm not with him every day, but I can just tell you by dealing with all these people and figuring that part out, there's something about Russell that gets under your skin. And if you're the Seahawks, you have to decide, is that worth throwing away a top 5, top 3, top 2 quarterback in the NFL? To me, the answer would be never. But the idea that they're entertaining the deal tells you that there's something that just doesn't mesh when it comes to Russell Wilson's production and talent, as opposed to his ability to get along with people.
It's funny because I've looked at that deal and I've kind of said it would almost be like, I love Josh as my co-host, but if Trey, you decided that you want to co-host with me, Josh, feel free, you can leave.
See ya.
So it's
no disrespect intended.
None taken.
And listen, Josh, I'm serious right now. If Trey ever said he wanted to co-host with me, I'd kick you out in a heartbeat.
You don't have to kick me out. I'd leave on my own, man. I'd congratulate you and leave on my own.
Oh man, getting back to you, Trey, for a little bit. I'm curious because, like I said, a golf aficionado. I'm going to say, what's that best score you've gotten?
Look, I'm a mediocre golfer to the extreme. The best.
Oh no, talk yourself up. There's no cameras on that golf course.
No, 73, best score I've ever made, 1 over par. But to that point, just shows you how mental golf is, right? It was at the Bay Course at Kapalua out in Maui a few years ago. I was 1 under through 13 holes. And I texted my wife and I said, I'm 1 under through 13 holes. And to her undying credit, she said, what the hell are you doing? Why are you texting me your score? Finish. Get to the finish line. I proceeded to bogey the next 3 holes, but I had a couple of par 5s to finish and I got it back to where it could be. It should have been an even par round, but I missed a 4-footer for a 72. But that's how that golf is the most mental sport there is. Anybody can go out there and for 4 or 5 holes or on the range, hit every shot. But then you start thinking. Golf is the only sport where thinking is the enemy. You need to be a robot or as stupid as the stupidest person on the planet to score well in golf. You have to be able to be a Tiger Woods aficionado or just a guy who cuts off the brain waves to your cerebral cortex to be a solid player and scorer in golf. So that's what I love about the game. It's an eternal mystery, right? The harder you try, the worse you're going to be.
Trey, I have to disagree with you, though, because I'm one of the dumbest people I know, and I still can't hit a golf ball straight.
Well, you have no athletic talent then. So that's the other answer to that. I'm not trying to have some sort of figuring it out.
Listen, you know what? Feel free. I'll come down to whatever golf course you're going to. We want to get around it. It's no problem. I'll make time in my busy schedule, of course.
I respect the hustle.
Josh, what you got?
Yeah, I just found out about this recently, honestly, when I was preparing for the show, that you went to the same high school as Steve Young. I had no idea about that. What was he like in high school? Were you friends with him, or was it separate?
Let me tell you a story. All right. We went to the same building, but we were in different high schools. Steve was a year ahead of me and he was all everything. Just to give you an idea of what it was like at Greenwich High School in the early 80s. Steve Young would go on to be, $40 million USFL quarterback, go on to have incredible success, Hall of Famer, won a Super Bowl with the 49ers. In high school, he dated a girl named Christy Fitchner. Now, that name means nothing to you, but I'm going to put it in context where you will understand. In 1986, Christy Fitchner beat out, among other women, Halle Berry for the title of Miss USA. Thank you, Josh. That was the reaction I was looking for. And finished runner-up Miss Universe. So the power couple at our high school was Steve Young, Mr. Hall of Fame, quarterback, everything, and eventually Miss USA, Miss Runner-Up, Miss Universe, Christy Fitchner. The rest of us didn't have a chance, man. Like, we existed in an alternate universe. We were not even there. I always told Steve, could you get arrested for like one thing to give the rest of us an opportunity to rise up and feel better about ourselves? But no, he couldn't do it. He was a Brigham Young descendant. He had to be all this great stuff and date this incredible woman. The rest of us were screwed, totally screwed.
So is it fair to say you didn't win any of the superlatives in your high school yearbook?
Factual information.
Because I still have the trophy. I won life at the party at prom, so I still hold that one up.
I won literally nothing thanks to Steve Young.
Well, you know what? At least you didn't lose out to some nobody. You can say that.
I mean, like, it's like if you lose in the playoffs and you lose to the eventual Super Bowl champion, you're like, at least we lost to the team that won it all. Because that MFR won everything.
Speaking of everything, you've done a lot. You really have. You've hosted the NFL draft. I watched NFL Live literally every single day I came home from school. So I know you from there as well. You took over for Greenberg when, ESPN radio. What's the hardest one? And also, actually, you lended your voice to NFL 2K. So,
yeah.
Which one of those is kind of like the hardest things to do? Well,
I would tell you that without doubt, the NFL draft is the most fun you can have in broadcasting. It's the only true reality show. Like, reality shows everywhere. There's cameras everywhere. You see them, you understand them, you know what's going on. But like, if I would have told you before the 2016 draft that, hey, I'm going to make a prop bet with you, the highest rated tackle in the draft, right before he's drafted, someone's going to release a video of him smoking weed in a gas mask bong. Like, what would be the odds? And that shit actually happened to Laramie Tunsil, right? So the draft is the ultimate experience because you have no idea what's going to happen. And you just sort of hang on for the ride. So, like, if my walk-off moment at ESPN was the draft of last year when it was completely virtual, and I was in a studio by myself with a million different people fanned out across the universe.
Twitter fans dealing for with them remotely. Well.
Yeah. Well, it's funny thing about that real quickly. Like, people said, hey, did you know about the suit? I'm like, no, I wasn't on Twitter. I was trying to get through the draft. I wasn't looking at any of that, but we had 56 million people watch that draft. And so I'm good with that. Like, I'm good with that.
I kind of have a follow-up question about the draft, and I don't even know if you are, can get into it. But, you and other people catch a lot of stuff on Twitter and in the tabloids and everything like that for when somebody gets drafted and then, you bring up the tough past that they had and, their parents did this or they did that when they were younger. Is that something you can even control?
It is. And I want to be clear about that. I think that's a fair criticism. But, like, for example, when Chase Young was drafted second overall, I don't know if you remember, he had a picture last year of his grandfather in a cowboy hat. Well, that's because he wanted his grandfather to be a part of the draft, and his grandfather had passed away and was a big mentor to him. When Cesar Ruiz was drafted, was it by the Saints? Jesus, I can't remember. Was he the center out of Michigan? I think it went to New Orleans. He broke down in tears because his father had been killed on the highway in a car crash. So we get these stories because they wanted them told. And a lot of those players wanted that to be out there. Like, this is what my parents sacrificed for me. This is what happened to me, and I had to overcome it. I understand it if you don't want to hear it, and that makes all the sense in the world. But the only reason that we at the time had access to that information was because it was granted to us and it was given to us. And the draft is such an emotionally personal experience. You go through peewee football and high school football, and you go through the perils of college recruiting, and you go through the idea of playing at some point high-level Division I football. It's not easy. It's hard. And for so many of these draftees, it's a combination of a culmination of everything they've achieved and the understanding at the same time that it means nothing because it allows you the opportunity to continue to prove yourself. And that's why it's such a raw emotional experience. And I get it if people say, hey, you dwell on this too much. I understand that. But at the end of the day, we got that information because the people that were going through the process wanted that to be told, wanted that to be part of their draft experience.
That's fair.
Yeah, you've spent a lot of time with pro athletes, like doing the draft and covering the NFL for so long. What is one of your most memorable moments, like whether funny, serious, just with a pro athlete, just something that always pops in your mind when you see them?
There's a bunch of those, right? Like there was a kid in 2008 named Caleb Campbell who was a linebacker at Army, and he was drafted by the Lions. And the Army had not yet decided whether or not they were going to waive the mandatory 2-year service commitment. And when he got drafted, and this was when the draft was still in New York at Radio City Music Hall, literally everybody that was still there on day 3, when the draft was, day 2, sorry, when the draft was very long on day 2, stood up and applauded all these different jerseys. And that was a really cool moment. But I interviewed Tyrann Mathieu right after he got drafted in the 3rd round by the Cardinals. And of course, Tyrann's story is very well told. He had all kinds of issues at LSU and went on to become an amazing human being as well as an amazing player. And like the raw emotion that came out, that he was just so happy that he got drafted in any way, shape, or form. Those are the things I remember. Those kind of stories stick with you because a lot of guys have been through a lot of crap, a lot of tough stuff, and they found a way to get through it and be drafted. That I always thought was very, very cool.
Yeah. Another thing that I was curious about, it's International Women's Day, actually. And I know obviously you've worked with a lot of women in the industry. Is there somebody that stands out more than the other, or somebody, you shout out? Because, like I look back on it, and Eileen Duncan, when the tragic passing of Kobe, with, the story she told, I look at some of those, and, Doris Burke doing great things with the NBA. Is there somebody, you worked with that you're like, obviously all deserve to be there, but you're like, wow, you're really, the top tier of people in our business?
Far too many to mention. Like, it's just ordinary. I'll give you a couple of examples. Carol Lawson, who I did the women's college tournament for 7 years. She's now the head coach at Duke basketball. She's one of the coolest people I've ever met in my life. I think she's absolutely amazing. Susie Colbert has done an amazing job with the NFL for so many years. I'm just so pleased that it's not a thing anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it's not why is she here? There's so many outstanding women that have done so many things. Amy Trask, who was a longtime CEO of the Raiders, who was going on to have great success outside her time with the Raiders. These are all people that have just done a great job, and they're just like they're just like any other qualified person. So Pat Summitt, who I had a lot of conversation with before she passed away. The thing about Pat Summitt was I never thought about gender whenever I talked to Pat. I thought about a coach. She was simply a coach, an exceptional coach. Like, she took gender out of the equation. Those are the people that I think about with Carol and Amy and Susie and all those people who have just done it by their chops. They are good at what they do, and they have been amazing at what they've done.
Yeah, and Josh, before you even go on, I just like I said, International Women's Day. Shout out Monique and Amber, two of our big people here. Amber has like 55 shows she does. It's unbelievable what she does. Monique runs everything on the social media side. Also has her show as well. So shout out to our ladies over here on Unwrapped. Absolutely.
Yeah, and Trey, now that you're gone from ESPN, you're doing your podcast, Half Forgotten History. What's that? Just kind of tell us more about that. And is that like the future for you? Is that what you want to do from now on?
Well, I'm certainly going to keep doing it. It's a lot of fun because, I look, to me, at the heart of it, I love telling stories. And I've been very fortunate for a lot of years to hear a lot of things that never, for whatever reason, made it to air, whether it was in a conversation in the green room or conversation at Super Bowl over dinner and a cocktail, when you could do those things. And I have so much of that I want to share with people, and it's been great. Like, We just did a episode today with Lane Johnson, the Eagles offensive lineman, and talking to him about some of the stuff that he's been through, or talking to Jeff Saturday about the time where Peyton was going to his first Super Bowl 41, and some of the things he said almost created a mutiny on the team. And Jeff had to you need to chill the bleep out. You need to calm down because you can't be saying these things. Those kind of stories. I did this when I had Eli and Archie on. Eli's rookie year, there was a game where his outstanding left tackle, Luke Pettigout, broke his leg. And Bob Whitfield, who was a fine player for a lot of years, but at that point was a backup, had to come in, and he was terrible. Awful. Eli got killed in that game. And that week, there was a team meeting where Bob Whitfield got him and said, "Hey, man, this is on me. Luke never gets hurt. I was out all night partying with people. I didn't think I was going to play. And so I was ready. I had no sleep." And, he was a disaster. And Eli turned to Tim Hasselback and said, "Yeah, and I'm the bust." You know what I mean? Those are the stories that I've known forever that I'm happy to share with other people. And that's the big part about it. So, yeah, I will always – there's a bunch of other stuff going on that I can't really talk about right now. You'll hear about them soon. But the podcast to me is my passion. It's my labor of love, and I'm looking forward to continuing it. We're already through season 2, and we're on to season 3 and season 4 already. It's going to be a lot of fun. Check it out on YouTube or everywhere else. Half Forgotten History. Well,
I was going to say I'm happy to hear that at least because that's what I listen to at night. Like when I'm going to sleep, I love the stories. Like I said, I can't get enough of sports. That's why I talk about it like you. I suck at everything else. So I enjoy talking about it, listening to it. So, one of my fears as, someone, I guess you can say, trying to be an up-and-comer in this industry is how COVID has kind of affected everything with, all the things are on Zoom now and you're not in the locker room getting those stories that you can kind of get when you're sitting back there in the green room. Do you think that COVID has an everlasting effect on the way companies do business? Because I look at it as we're not going to spend money to send you to all over the country anymore. You can do your job over Zoom, but to me, it's not you're not getting the same, face-to-face stories.
Yeah. It'll have a lasting effect. There's no question about it. Because at the end of the day, the bottom line is the bottom line. And if there's a way to do it for less money, people are going to do it. There's no question about it. So I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I have a good setup, as you can see. But yeah, I think, look, for example, if I had said 2 years ago, I'm going to launch this podcast, I'm just going to do it over Zoom from my big bar, people would have said you're crazy. But I think that's the new normal, and that's the way it's going to go. So I do think the in-person experience, like one of the things I've loved about doing PGA Tour Live is like being there for the events. Like events always matter. Those things always matter. But at the end of the day, I think we're always going to find a way to get something going for the least amount of cost. And right now, we're finding out that you can cut down on massive production costs by doing it this way.
Yeah. Trey, looking at this draft coming up, last year's draft class was just amazing with guys like Herbert and Joe Burrow and, Justin Jefferson having not just a great season for a rookie, just a receiver in general. Do you think this draft class has a potential to be as good, if not better, as last year's?
I think this draft is the most unsure in the history of drafts. That's the best way I can describe it. Look, you have guys that are going to be top 10, top 5 picks that have opted out of playing for a year. You have a team that played 6 games as opposed to a team that's played 11 games. You have no combine. You have scattered pro days. This draft is going to be, without a doubt, the weirdest draft of all time. And we potentially have 5 quarterbacks that will go in the top 10 picks. Like, that's never happened before. We have the potential for 6 picks to go, quarterbacks to go in the first round. That's never happened before. The quarterback position has become the most overdrafted position that I can remember. For example, Jordan Love was a first-round pick of the Green Bay Packers. They had Aaron Rodgers, who's gone to back-to-back NFC championship games. And Jordan Love didn't play this year. Yet they felt compelled to not only draft him in the first round, but move back up into the first round to draft him. And while I'm not disputing anything that Jordan Love may or may not be, we have 5 or 6 guys that could go in the first round this year. Why did you feel so compelled to move back into the first round last year to draft a guy who never saw the field when you could have given Aaron Rodgers another weapon that might have helped you in the NFC Championship game? So this draft is going to be incredible. Incredible.
As our fellow Packer fan and sad boy chimes in, I still can't believe they drafted him in the first round. Listen, Matt, I've talked to you. I mean,
literally, Matt, whoever this is, you realize for this to make any sense at all, Jordan Love has to be the next Aaron Rodgers, because they drafted Aaron Rodgers in the back end of the first round when they had Brett Favre. So for any of this to make sense, Jordan Love has got to be the next Aaron Rodgers. Otherwise, it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Well, listen, if we're going to talk about quarterbacks, I need to know, because we'll get into the real important question, what my Patriots are going to do at the quarterback situation.
Your Patriots?
Yeah,
is your last name Kraft? I'm just curious.
You know what? I'm up for adoption if you feel like it, Mr. Kraft. So, hey, I can.
He's got some other issues he's working through.
But, we went through the year of Cam Newton. Do you think that's the future? Because, listen, Josh is his biggest supporter, Mr. Cam Newton over there. I've never liked Cam, even his MVP season. So we're always arguing about that.
All right. TV time out here.
Oh,
First of all, why do you not like Cam Newton during his MVP season?
I still think Brady deserved it. He had a 59% completion percentage.
Listen, I understand where you're coming from, especially on third down. I think that year he's about 50% on third down. But they did have the highest scoring offense that year without Kelvin Benjamin, who was his number one wide receiver, right? We can acknowledge that, right?
This is true.
Okay. So, I get the Cam Newton concerns, but not in 2015. Don't do that. Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
That's like the mother of the Titans game who got upset when he danced in the end zone. And I was like, do you see what the Titan cheerleaders are doing? Why are you concerned about that when the Titan cheerleaders are doing that? So getting back to the bigger picture, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Patriots to bring Cam Newton back.
Trey, how could you do this to me?
I also think it makes a lot of sense to them to consider trading for Sam Darnold if they're sold on Zach Wilson in New York. For me, Sam Darnold, how do you know what he is? In 2018, it was his rookie year, so everyone gets a pass that year. 2019, he got freaking mono, so that's done. And then the past year, whenever he was healthy, he was great. Or 2020, he had mono, whatever it was. But I mean, when he was healthy, he was good. But they didn't have they went big on the wide receiver out of Baylor in the second round, and that didn't pan out, right? They definitely Mekhi Becton was a good pick. I don't think there's any question about that. To me, how can you judge Sam Darnold until you do what the Bills did with Josh Allen? His rookie year was meh. And then you gave him an underneath target in Cole Beasley. You drafted a tight end in Dawson Knox. Then you find a huge offseason target in Stephon Diggs. And lo and behold, Josh Allen had an MVP-type season. So, this is, again, why a quarterback wins and losses. It's not a thing with me. How are you going to judge somebody unless you give him weapons around him to be good at what he does? Otherwise, it makes no sense.
So I assume you fall into the Adam Gase category with that, where it's all his fault. Because I'm not a huge fan of Sam, but I can also agree with the fact that he had nothing, and Adam Gase should never coach in the NFL again. I don't know how it's possible he does.
I'm not it's all Adam Gase's fault, especially when you have Peyton Manning lobbying for you. It's a Jets fault. The organization not great. And I hope Joe Douglas turns it around, and I hope he does wonderful things. But if you're looking at the history of the Jets organization, it's pretty crappy.
Broadway Joe, baby.
Broadway Joe in 2 years with Mark Sanchez. That's what you got. That's what
and a year with our boy Favre in the back.
Yeah.
Although they didn't make the playoffs that year. They didn't make the playoffs, so forget it. He was busy doing other things.
All right, asking about my team, the Panthers. So when we get Deshaun Watson, how many Super Bowls do you think we win?
Well, first and foremost, let me be clear. I love Matt Rule, and I will admit I am biased because he was a coach at my alma mater. I think Matt is an incredible coach. Like, I had people telling me they're not going to win a game. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? They could have won 8 games this year easily. McCaffrey gets hurt. He's their best weapon. Bridgewater was fine. I think Darnold might be in play for Carolina. I think that might be a real move for them. Matt is going to figure it out. Like, everywhere he's been, he's built. And I think that we're in good shape to build again under Matt Rule. There was a reason every single one of their draft picks last season was a defensive player, because the previous year they gave the most points per game in franchise history. Jeremy Duggar was incredible. Or they have Jeremy Chin, Kyler Duggar. Jeremy Chin was incredible for them. So I think good things are in line for Carolina. You get McCaffrey healthy, you figure out your quarterback situation. I think they're in good shape on the defensive side.
You know, you speak of quarterback situations. Did the Eagles fix it?
No. I have no idea when that
Okay.
fixes it. And then, I want to be clear. This is not a knock on Jalen Hurts. But how are you moving on from Carson Wentz with the sample size that you have from Jalen Hurts? What did he play, 4 games? 4 games. Some of them were good. Some of them were terrible. And look, I get the Wentz thing. He regressed. But they're now facing a $34 million cap hit for him to not play for the team. And he's going to Indianapolis, where he's reunited with Frank Reich, who was the offensive coordinator when Carson Wentz was at his best. I'm certainly betting on that marriage working more than the idea of Jalen Hurts working without any of those people and without Doug Peterson. I'm not saying it can't happen, but what's a more likely scenario? Carson Wentz behind one of the best offensive lines in football with the guy that made him as good as he could be, a potential MVP before he got hurt in 2017, or Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia without Doug Peterson, with a new head coach and half those people there that didn't put together any part of that winning Super Bowl team in 2017.
I'm rooting for Wentz, and I might be a little biased on this because there's a possibility that I might have said he was going to win MVP last year. It's possible I said that. So
facts. It's facts. He said it in like one of our first 2 shows.
Well, look, I'll tell you this right now, that I would have told you, I would have bet you any amount of money you wanted that either the Cowboys or the Eagles were winning the NFC East. And it came down to the Redskins, the football team and the Giants. So we're all idiots. Like, nobody, as Al Michaels always says, nobody knows anything.
Well, the one thing we do know is that Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be the guy. He's the guy this year. Is there somebody that you think is, on that level or close to it, or are you just, it's Trevor Lawrence and the rest is there?
Well, Mel has done this for a long time, right? Mel Kiper Jr. And he's had a couple of misses, but in his top 10 of all-time drafting quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence is in that top 10. Now, there are a couple of guys that are in there that didn't pan out, including the former Houston quarterback, Andre Ware, that went to the Lions. There's another miss in there. I can't remember who it was. I have to look at that top 10. But that's how highly he thinks of him. So Elway was number 1. I think Andrew Luck was number 2.
Was Ryan Leaf in there?
Leaf might have been in there.
Jamarcus Russell was supposed to be a god coming out.
But he never had Jamarcus Russell. He was high on Josh Allen when a lot of people weren't. But look, the expectations are for Trevor Lawrence to be that dude. Trevor Lawrence is one of those guys that you could make the argument could have leaped from high school to the pros. There's very few. Clowney would have been one of those guys. There's a couple of other players that might have been that guy. But that's the evaluation. But as we all know, drafting is the most inexact science. Like, let's go through the last few quarterbacks taken 1 and 2 overall. 2020, Joe Burrow got hurt, but I think he played well before then. We'll see what happens.
Wentz and Goff both traded.
Well, was Tua before Herbert, or was Herbert before Tua? I think Tua, then
I think
Herbert.
it was Tua Herbert.
And you can make the argument that Herbert should have gone before Tua. We all missed on Herbert. All of us missed on Herbert. By the way, Chargers GM Tom Telesco, future guest on the Have Forgotten History podcast, so put that in there. Then in 2019, Kyler Murray went number 1. And I think on some level, the jury is still out. I mean, the Cardinals are thinking about trying to make an all-in play for Deshaun Watson after drafting Kyler number 1, and like the year earlier, taking Josh Rosen in the top 10. 2017 was Mitchell Trubisky ahead of Watson and Mahomes. Disaster. 2016, Goff and Wentz have both been traded. 2015, Mariota and Jameis. Jameis is looking for work, and Mariota's a backup with the Raiders. The draft is the most inexact science there is. So while it's all fun and we can talk about it, and it's great fodder, especially in a couple of months where we don't have football to talk about, there's no science to it. It's a crapshoot at best.
You know, I'm a little. Listen, I'm just going to say this: you're either smarter than the rest of us, or you have some science behind this. How do you remember all these things? I mean, I barely remember what I learned in school today.
Well, because my brain is filled with nothing else but useless information. I'm serious. Like, I could tell you right now the score of every Super Bowl and every MVP from 1 to 55, just because. It's just stuck in there for no reason whatsoever.
You can 2004?
Well, okay, when you say 2004, no, hold on. Because there's the season that's played in 2003,
right,
which is the 2004 Super Bowl, or the 2004 season, which is and the Super Bowl is played in 2005. So you're asking me more specifically about Super Bowl 37 or Super Bowl 38?
I'll go 37.
Or Super Bowl 36 or 37. I'm sorry.
I'm going to go 37, and I'm going to look
37.
it up.
Super Bowl 37 would be the Raiders. The Bucs over the Raiders, 48-21, played in San Diego, and that was really weird because I think Dexter Jackson was the MVP, but Brian Kelly should have been the MVP because they'd already turned in the votes. And at the very end of the game, Brian Kelly had a second interception return for a touchdown, but they'd already given it to Dexter Jackson.
Well, goddamn people, he's right.
Try me. Let's go. Give me another one.
I mean, I will. It's no problem.
24. Super Bowl 24.
Super Bowl 24. That was the Niners over the Broncos. Niners over the Broncos, 55-10. Joe Montana, the MVP. That game was played in New Orleans. That might have been Dan Reeves' best football team as a head coach of the Denver Broncos, and they couldn't figure it out. In fact, they'd won Super Bowl 23 the year before, 20-16 in Miami over the Bengals, where Jerry Rice was the MVP. And they were going for the three-peat in Super Bowl 25, and then they lost the NFC Championship game to the Giants. The Giants kicked 5 field goals in that game, won 15-13, without scoring a touchdown in that game because Joe Montana got hurt on a sack by Leonard Marshall, and Steve Young came in, and in a fumbled exchange at Candlestick between Steve Young and Roger Craig led to Lawrence Taylor recovering that fumble, and Matt Barr kicked the game-winning field goal for them to win 15-13.
That was the most subtle flex I've ever seen in my entire life, by the way.
Don't at me, bro. Come on, let's go.
I don't know where you even go from there.
Give it a shot.
Josh, I don't know if you had a question, because I know you were talking before I interrupted.
I'm just still kind of, wow, that was very impressive.
It's ridiculous. Like, everyone has a stupid, like, party drunk trick. That's mine.
Did you ever do the show with Michael K, where you guys do the questions back and forth, last one standing?
No, never. I did a bunch of shows with Michael K. Never did that.
We're gonna have to get you on last one standing because Don chokes sometimes, and I want to see the real back and forth between you and Michael.
Love it. No problems. Happy to do it.
Well, listen, you said shoot or shoot before, we came on the stream. And I'm just going to say this. I might have a baseball show Thursdays as well. If you can ever get Michael K to acknowledge my existence or, hop on and say, listen, I met this wonderful young man and, he loves you. If you ever want to do that, feel free as well. Yeah. Shoot or shoot.
Don't push it. No, I'll be happy to mention it to Michael. No problems.
Josh, what about All-Star Weekend? I know we want to get into that as well because, Trey's is a plethora of knowledge. It's not just football, people.
Yeah, All-Star Weekend, for me personally, it was pretty underwhelming. I honestly didn't think it should have happened. The dunk contest was just the stupidest thing I've ever seen. What were your thoughts overall for the All-Star festivities?
Nailed it, what you just said. Like it was a pass for me. Like here's my problem with the NBA. And I appreciate the entertainment value of the regular season, right? But if you play 82 games to eliminate less than half the teams from the playoffs, why do I care? There's no such thing as an important regular season NBA game. You can have an entertaining game and an interesting game, but you literally play 82 games. The NHL is guilty of this as well, but in the NHL, if you don't try, you'll get massacred. Like there's a difference. The NBA's biggest problem to me is that the regular season is of no consequence whatsoever. Because at the end of the day, the best teams, and by the way, with Blake Griffin joining the Nets, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
you have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Blake Griffin. If you don't win by 1,000,000 points, you failed miserably. So like the NBA All-Star game to me used to be one of my favorite things to watch in all sports. And now it's like, whatever. Like there has to be something that matters. That's why I love football. Every game matters, like it's important to try. And I just, with the NBA the way it is, it's like we're just putting out inventory until the playoffs start. And remember, the first round of the NBA playoffs used to be best 3 out of 5. They made that to 4 out of 7. And now you play a game on Sunday and you play the next game on Wednesday in the same city. So there's no reason to have that lag. You're just hanging around, and it's all for television revenue. I get it, but it just until you get to the conference finals in the NBA, let me know, and then I'll catch up.
I got to throw this in there. It's one of my friends. Blake is old and washed up. Lakers in 6. Tell him that he's wrong.
Well, is Anthony Davis gonna be back and ready to go from the Achilles?
He's just waiting for the playoffs. He saw that
he's like the rest of us. He's like the rest of us. Yeah. He's just waiting for the playoffs.
Yeah.
I will say this. Like there are LeBron critics, and I understand it, but he's now won 4 championships on 3 different teams. That's significant, right? Like I'm of the Jordan era, and I will always believe he's the greatest player I've ever seen. 6-0 in finals, 6 finals MVPs. I get all that. He didn't win bleep until Pippen showed up. And those two had to work together. LeBron has made it from Miami to Cleveland to LA and found a way to make it work in every one of those places. And you can say whatever you want about LeBron. You don't like this, you don't like that. There's only one player in the history of the NBA that's in the top 10 in scoring and the top 10 in assists. It's LeBron James. He may end up being the all-time greatest scorer in NBA history. But all the other great scorers, they're not in the top 50 in assists. He plays a different game. And you may not like it, but at the end of the day, it needs to be acknowledged for what it is. And for all the Jordan love, and again, I said I'm one of those guys, he won championships when he passed the ball to John Paxson and Steve Kerr. Those things happened. And there are certain people that want to pretend like they didn't. LeBron sees the game in a different way. He is singularly unique.
That may be my favorite thing outside of when you said the Panthers defense is in good shape. That's my favorite thing you've said this show, because they all want to say that Ray Allen saved LeBron. Then, like you said, then Steve Kerr and John Paxson saved Jordan too.
It's not like it hasn't happened before. He's an easy target in the era of social media. But if all those other people were as good as they were, why aren't they filling up the assist stats like LeBron is?
It's I give my LeBron criticism here and there, but it doesn't. Listen, Josh is a lover though, because LeBron dunks and he thinks he just hit a 360.
Okay.
Here we go.
This was the argument. LeBron dunked in game from like one step in the free throw line, and Connie was like, "That's not impressive."
It was a wide open dunk. He ran.
And then I asked him, when Jordan dunked from the free throw line in a dunk contest, was that impressive? And he was like, yeah. I was like, no defenders, didn't have to dribble, took from the other baseline. How is that impressive, but LeBron's dunk?
Because LeBron did it inside the free throw line.
One step.
Hey, a step is a step. Oh, a step for LeBron ain't the same step as me and you.
Yeah, you're losing this argument. I'm just telling you.
No, listen. Yeah. I'll sit here on this argument all day.
Why do you want to die on this hill?
Yeah, exactly.
Why do you want to die on this hill?
I want to die on this hill.
Did LeBron hurt you in some way?
No. Trey, listen, this is why I'm dying on the hill. Because I get it. LeBron is fantastic. But it's the LeBron fatigue as well that I have to see him posted everywhere, that he just did one dunk on a wide open basket, and next thing I know, I'm supposed to be praying to him.
All right. Well, thank you. Hold on a minute. Let's just be clear about one thing. You're right. LeBron fatigue is a thing. Why is LeBron fatigue a thing? Because he's been great forever. And the other thing, like Jordan never had social media. Jordan never did any of this. You never could suffer from LeBron fatigue or Kareem fatigue or Magic fatigue because there was no way to get fatigued.
I think my beef comes with everything I see being quoted year 17. Because I'm telling you right now, next season, every time Brady throws a pass, I'm quoting the tweet with year 22 or whatever season he's in.
Well, no. Those things are accurate. But those things are accurate. Like the greatest quarterback over 40 before what we've seen from Brady is the guy hanging behind Josh's right shoulder. It's Brett Favre. And Brady has said, let me punt that shit out of here 50 yards. Okay? Look, I'm not the biggest Brady guy of all time, but you have to acknowledge what he's doing. LeBron in year 17, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And Jordan retired. Imagine LeBron now and imagine Jordan as a wizard. Those are the things we're comparing. Okay? Jordan as a wizard was not LeBron as a Laker. It ain't the same thing.
Can I make this argument, though?
You can make any argument you want. This is the problem with social media, but go ahead.
You're right. That we now know how to take care of our bodies more. I mean, back in the day, what's the famous picture? Guy smoking a cigarette on the football bench.
That would be Len Dawson at halftime of Super Bowl I.
I mean, yes. we know how to take care of our bodies now.
A Sprite. I get it. All of that is true. But you're telling me that in the mid-'90s, Jordan didn't know how to take care of his body? You just quoted a picture from 1967.
All right, but did Jordan
difference?
Did Jordan have cryogenic chambers that he could sleep in and spending $1 million on his body like LeBron does?
Then why is Dwayne Wade out of the league?
Jordan had whatever he freaking wanted, man.
Jordan still has whatever he wants.
I'm the biggest Jordan guy of all time, but you're not getting me to say that, Jordan didn't have all he had everything. He had everything.
Who is your favorite athlete?
He wasn't ripping darts.
He was smoking 16 cigars after winning the NBA Finals.
LeBron smokes cigars and drinks wine.
Hey, wine's, the doctors say it's good for you now.
So there you go. So now you come full circle. You want my favorite athlete of all time?
I do. I'm curious.
Tiger Woods, and it ain't close.
Really?
It's not even a debate.
Even with all your football love, it still goes to golf.
Golf is the most impossible sport to dominate, and he dominated it for 15 years. Like, it's impossible. By the way, I'm so glad we honored my I got to be out by 7 thing. Is at 7:43, but that's a separate issue entirely.
Listen, I wasn't going to say anything. I might have looked at the clock a few times.
I already postponed it, so it's all good.
Oh,
but
Trey's a legend.
At the end of the day, golf is not a game you can dominate, and he dominates. Like, do you know what the longest streak of cuts made right now is on the PGA Tour? You have any idea?
I could not tell you.
It's 25 by Rory McIlroy. Do you know what Tiger Woods' record is?
Can I take a ballpark guess?
Sure.
250.
142. So, like, Rory McIlroy would have to make the cut over every tournament he played over the next 5 years to match what Tiger Woods has done. And I know there are people going to say, well, Jack won more majors. Give me a break. When Jack was playing, and I love Jack, don't get me wrong, there were maybe 10 guys that showed up every week that could win a major. There are literally 40 guys that show up every week that could win a major. Tiger did things that were ridiculous, that were insane, that made no sense. In a sport where you cannot dominate, he dominated over a longer stretch of time than anyone ever has. It's not close to me. That guy was a freak show. And I just pray at this point after the accident that he can have a normal life and hang out with his kids and walk. I don't care if he ever plays golf again. I just want him to be a dude and be a father. That's all I care about with him.
Did you get into golf like always, or was it towards, as you got older?
I got into golf in the early 90s when I had a lot of free time on the weekends and my wife was working, so I had nothing else to do. But golf is the ultimate tease. Like, you can play 4 holes and feel like you could qualify for the tour, and then you can play the next 5 holes and feel like you've never swung a club in your life.
That's me through 18 holes.
Right. But that's the randomness of golf, like the necessity of being so incredibly mentally sharp as opposed to physically sharp that makes golf the obvious internal struggle.
Yeah, like I said before, I can't play golf even if I think Tiger was my teacher. So shout out to you with your 73. I saw those beautiful pictures that you were taking in Maui. Yeah, I mean,
not terrible. Like, my favorite thing is when a pro golfer or Tiger will hit a terrible shot. And you're like, you're the worst golfer in the world. I'm like, shut up. Like, just stop. All right. We all know how this goes. So there are peaks and valleys in that game more than any other game.
Yeah. Josh, I don't know if I got more, but Josh, if you got anything, you can.
No, I just had the sports topics. You can go off, honey.
It's kind of funny. We, look at like YouTube clips and stuff. You have like your welcome to the NFL moment for these players. Did you have like your welcome to this life kind of moment where you worked with somebody? You were like, oh my God, I'm working next to him.
Well, there were a couple of things. Like, for a year, we hired Jerry Rice at ESPN. And, at one point, I think 10 years ago, he was named the greatest player in the history of the NFL. So I was walking one way on the campus and he was walking the other way. And he said, hey, man, how do I need to get to wherever? I said, well, you go down here, make a left, make a right, walk down the stairs, and you'll get to where you want to be. And I walked by him like, I just told Jerry Rice where to go. Like, that was a good day. But there were so many good days, like working with Herm, working with Darren, working with Schlereth, working with Saturday, working with Teddy, working with Damien, working with Ryan Clark. All of those days were great days. I was blessed beyond all possibilities to work with all those guys that I loved watching, guys that I loved analyzing with. There were a million of those days, like a million of those days. But in all my years outside of the draft, which I've stated is, was a lot of fun, and last year was great. Being able to go to the U.S. Open and the Open Championship for 7 years, that was amazing. Like, the U.S. Open is our national championship, and it's incredible. But outside of the Olympics, the Open Championship, or as we call it, the British Open, it's the oldest title in sports. And to go to some of those courses, whether it's Muirfield or St. Andrews or Royal Lytham, and be there as it happens, like, that's the most fun I've had at anything I've ever done. And it's just great. There've been a million of those moments, and I've been thankful for every one of them.
Well, let me hang a cap on this because this is my favorite moment of all time. So you're a part of mine. I'll say that, Trey, for 100%. I will say
Name
that.
higher.
So, but it's crazy that this, let me tell you, like me and Josh were sitting in here, like the lobby before, waiting for the little circle to pop up that Trey was coming on. And Trey, I'm sorry to say this, you almost had, a homicide on both of your hands though, because you texted me the sorry, and me and Josh both almost died. It almost happened. I thought
I was running a little late coming back from dinner, so I apologized. I just wanted to make sure you guys were good.
Oh, listen, good isn't even the word, but I saw the sorry and I put my hand over my mouth and Josh said, "What? Speak. I need you to talk." But followed up with, "I'll be there soon." So we were over the moon for sure.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Look, like everyone needs help in this business. Like, I don't know what you guys want to do, but there were a million people that helped me along the way. So, there's no such thing as a self-made man. People can pretend that happens, but it doesn't exist. Everybody needs help. Everybody needs a boost to get where they want to be.
Well, if you're going to ask me what I want to do, it's be you. So
aim higher, bro. Aim higher than me. Shit. Come on.
I don't know, man. Those are some big old shoes I'm going to have to fill. So I'm shooting. I'm definitely shooting. But Josh, what you got?
Yeah, Trey, you've seen a lot of amazing sports moments. Like obviously when Connie's Patriots came back from 28-3 and all that. What's your favorite sports moment that you've been able to witness?
Well, the honest answer to that was one I wasn't able to witness, which was the Lake Placid Olympics in 1980. Growing up as a kid in the Cold War, watching the U.S. kids beat the Soviet hockey team. By the way, that people don't understand, like that game wasn't played live on television. It was played in the afternoon, tape delayed in the afternoon, and then rebroadcast. That was way up there. The Tiger chip in 2005 at the Masters would be way up there. The Patriots win when they're down 28-3. Jesus, if the Falcons just run the ball on 3rd and 1, like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm so thankful for you.
What are you doing? Being able to watch Mahomes work that magic in Super Bowl 54, and I still believe he's going to go down as the greatest quarterback of all time. I'm sorry. I understand that records and wins will always be with Brady. It's never going to happen. There are different things that matter to me. Like the Bucs wide receivers were mic'd up for Super Bowl 55. And if you want to find that clip and listen to them watching Mahomes, it's incredible. Like Mahomes, Mahomes is a unicorn, okay? He's a Yeti wrapped inside the Loch Ness Monster in the skin of Bigfoot. Like that's what Mahomes is. And you need to understand that. Like those moments for me. But I got to be honest with you, if you're asking me my 2 favorite moments in sports, give me a moment. My dad was a huge Cowboys fan, and I was a huge Cowboys fan. I took my dad to all 3 Super Bowls in the 90s when the Cowboys won. Super Bowls 28, 29, and 30. We were there together for all of those. And after Super Bowl 28, when they won back-to-back and they beat the Bills 30-13 in Atlanta, my dad, just so people know, was a journalist. He was Life magazine, managing editor of People magazine. He covered JFK's assassination. He was the bureau chief for the Vietnam War for Life magazine for 3 years. He covered Watergate. He covered the civil rights killings in Philadelphia, Mississippi in the 60s. He covered the first Super Bowl. My dad covered heavy shit, I took him to those Super Bowls. And in the bowels of the old Georgia Dome, after the game, we were down there and listening to the Cowboys players' press conferences, and Michael Irvin was going off. And my dad yelled out, "You tell him, Michael, you tell him." And I was like, "Dad, you can't say that. You can't do that. I'm working here. You can't be a part of that." To see him that happy was incredible. And my son became a huge Peyton Manning fan because the first Pro Bowl I ever took him to, he got a picture with Peyton. Tony Dungy couldn't have been nicer. So he rode the highs and lows of Peyton Manning's career. And I took him to Super Bowl 48 in New York. I was a freshman in college when he was a college football player. And they got destroyed 43-8. It was a disaster. I thought it was going to be the greatest moment of our lives, and it was the worst. And then 2 years later, when Peyton couldn't play dead in a Western, they make it to Super Bowl 50 against your Panthers. I apologize. And they find a way to win. And there's a picture of me and my son hugging after the game. That will always be my greatest sports moment, and nothing will ever touch it. It was great. And I'm sorry for being an idiot.
No, it's moments that you look at and you remember, for the rest of your life. I look back at things, even with my brothers, going to their games, being a little idiot, rooting them on. I remember my brother Michael, my middle brother, or technically the middle brother, won the first ever championship. I guess you could say Mahal's championship for my school. And he made an over the shoulder catch. And I remember thinking that, he was the greatest player to ever live. And it's something that unless he's watching right now, he probably doesn't even know. But it's things like that you're always going to remember for the rest of your life. It's moments like this that I know me and Josh are going to remember for the rest of our lives. When we got to talk to Don as well, it's not always that big cool moment. Like you said, Patriots coming back 28-3, that's cool for me. But, to have a moment like that, if I ever made it and, to bring people along with me, that's the things that really matter in life, because, everything else is kind of just, is temporary. Yeah. It was great. Like that. And his senior year, they went undefeated, won the championship, and it was pretty good. But, after the heartbreak of Super Bowl 48, which was a disaster from the first snap when it went over their head. Jesus, I was like, I'm the worst parent ever. 2 years later to see that, nothing will ever top that. Nothing. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Now, I guess I'll kind of wrap it up on this because you've been you're only 55 minutes over time. So I was going to say you've been more than generous, with your time. Like you said, I thought we were going to have 15 minutes, and I was happy with that. So the fact that we've been doing this for an hour and 12, I could keep going all day, but people have lives. I'm just curious, me and Josh coming up in this, is there a piece of advice or something like that that's ever stuck with you that, even to this day, you kind of remember or you pass on? Yeah. The biggest piece of advice I could give both of you is both of you decide. Don't let anybody else decide for you. You decide whether you want to continue, whether you want to do this, because regret is the worst feeling in the world. I have a friend of mine from college who recently passed away, and he never took his shot, and it ruined his life because he always wondered what if. So don't ever wonder what if. Shoot or shoot, as I said. Take your shot. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, at least you could say I stepped up to the plate. Because there will be a million people in the world that will be telling you, you can't. You can't. No. Don't ever be the person that tells yourself no. Decide to do this or try this for as long as you can, and you'll be happy no matter what happens. Like for me, I was offered a job in the late 80s to work for IMG, International Management Group. I was going to be on their sports marketing firm, and I was going to go to Wimbledon and sell Wimbledon clothing and work on their whatever accounts. It was like big dollars and big money. But I knew I had to try. I knew I had to try this thing. And so I turned them down. And years later in my career, IMG called me and they wanted to represent me in my career. The point I'm making is failing won't kill you. Regret will. So take your shot, shoot or shoot. And then you decide when it's time to call it whatever it is. It's something to live by for sure. Well, like I said, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Trey, I hope that we, gave your time justice. I hope that you had a good time, because even if you didn't, I'm sorry to say I did. So I hope we did you justice, with this little interview, little sit down. I can speak for me and Josh, but Josh will be able to say it better himself as well. You've made me instantly cooler with every single person I know. Like I said, I've watched you on TV. I've listened to your podcast basically since I knew what football and sports were. So besides, making it in the industry, this is definitely going to be the coolest thing that's happened to me. So like I said, I can't thank you enough. I can't, mention how much this means to me. I tweeted you on a limb thinking you were going to see it on, like I said, on day 150, and you were going to say no to me or just like it and move on with your very important busy life. But you took an hour and 15 minutes out of your day to talk to two kids who know absolutely nothing about anything. So I appreciate you more than you'll probably ever know. I hope that in the future I get to know you more, not through this way, but maybe we'll make it someday. So I appreciate it, Josh. I don't know if you have anything as well.
Yeah, Trey, just really appreciate you coming on. This is going to be something I'll carry with me forever. I'm going to flex it to all my friends for sure. Just thank you for the advice, especially. I mean, that's huge for guys like us trying to do it. And yeah, just really appreciate you coming on and giving us your time. We're sorry it took an extra hour than you were thinking, but thank you.
All good. The thing I thought I had at 7 is actually tomorrow night, so I screwed that up completely. So yeah, I had the time, guys. It was great. It was a pleasure, and I appreciate the effort, and I appreciate the intensity, and I appreciate the passion, because if you don't have that, it doesn't matter. So best of luck to both of you. And I'll try and put in, Anthony, a good word with you and Michael K. All right?
Oh, listen, nothing would mean more to me than that, because like I said, I got Yankee stuff all over my room. I got Jeter sitting to the left of me, so Yankee fan through and through. Trey, if you have anything to promo or anything like that before we sign off, you can absolutely do that as well. Obviously, give you your time to speak.
Well, look, there'll be a couple things coming out in the next few weeks that people will be aware of. Most importantly, check out Half Forgotten History. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts, it's available. It's growing. It's wonderful. And it's the stories that we talked about that are featured, which I love more than anything else. So that's all I got. Guys, be well, be safe, be good. We'll talk to you soon, and hopefully we'll catch up down the road.
Thank you. Like I said, pleasure, through and through. They always say not to meet your heroes, but Trey, sometimes they're wrong.
If you could hit me with that follow back on Twitter, that would be.
What's your handle? What's your handle?
At JoeLynn_4.
Done. Boom.
Appreciate it.
I got the follow first, Josh. So I'm holding that.
I know, that's all I needed.
All good, guys. Be well.
Yes, you have a good one, Trey. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, that'll wrap up this episode for sure. Like I said, appreciate Trey for coming on. It was an absolute wonderful time. We'll thank the sponsors one more time. If you're into betting, mybookie.ag, USN 100 doubles your first deposit. RX Hemp, RxHemp-USN saves you 10% on your entire order. CBD cream. So if you want to go, make sure you check that out. If you're a little sore from the gym or something like that, also make sure to go check out our store. Teespring/stores/unwrap. Check out the merch. I'm kind of still like mind boggled that just happened. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
Like whatever. But Unwrapped, Teespring/store/unwrapped. Make sure you go check that out. We all have our merch out there. Generational Sports, the show you're watching this on right now, has merch as well. It helps us out. And then finally, the Patreon, $1, you're supporting the team. $5, you get entered into a gift card giveaway. You also get 10% off the store I was just talking about and access to our Discord chat. And then 10% or $10, you get 20% off. You get the gift card giveaway. You also get entered into a giveaway for a signed piece of memorabilia. Last month we did Keenan Allen jersey. This month we're doing a Jordan Montgomery jersey. So make sure you check that out. And of course you get access to the Discord as well. But listen, we interviewed Trey Wingo. So I'm kind of beat. I can't believe that it happened, Josh. I don't know what you got before we head off, but you know where to find me. Anthony Conover _ Gen Z Sports, Twitch, follow Unwrapped. Josh, what you got?
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at JoeLynn_4. I'm waiting on that notification for the follow back. That's what I'm waiting for. But just what a show, man. Make sure you guys tune in next Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern.
Yes, sir. All right. Make sure if you missed this episode, check out the podcast. That was an unbelievable talk. Coming onto it, Trey said we had like 15 minutes because he thought he had that thing at 7. It turned into an hour and 15. So, our day's kind of made, but we'll catch you next Monday. We'll try to live up to those lofty expectations, but until